All right, get ready. We're doing a deep dive today on Originals by Adam Grant,
That's right.
a book all about, turning those wouldn't it be cool if ideas into reality.
Right.
Those moments where you think, I could totally change the game if we're going there.
Yeah.
And by the end of this deep dive, you'll have the tools, to actually do that.
Yeah. And we're not talking vague motivational posters or anything.
No.
Grant's got some serious research backing him up.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So what kind of research are we talking about? It's like the juicy stuff.
Well, get this. Grant highlights a study that found a link between, get this, your web browser and your likelihood of being an original thinker.
Wait, hold up. My choice of Chrome over Safari actually says something about me as a person.
Yeah, well, that's what the research suggests.
Okay.
So employees who went beyond the default browser, right, like choosing Chrome or Firefox, were more likely to be seen as original thinkers. And they stayed in their jobs longer. Now, it is a correlational study, meaning it shows a connection, not necessarily cause and effect.
That's wild. So maybe it's not just about speed and features when you're picking a browser. Maybe choosing something different is like a tiny act of rebellion.
Yeah.
A sign of someone who, questions the norm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What other things, what other seemingly ordinary choices could actually reflect that kind of originality?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it makes you wonder what else we might be overlooking, The big takeaway here is that originality is not just about having these big, bold ideas, right?
Right.
It's also about the small choices we make every single day
Yes.
that set us apart,
Yeah.
It's about cultivating a mindset that questions the default and seeks out new possibilities.
Yes. So we're talking about cultivating a habit of challenging the status quo. But let's be real for a second. Even if we embrace that mindset of I'm going to challenge things, coming up with those big ideas isn't always easy. So where do we even start?
Well, Grant actually tackles a huge misconception about creativity head on.
Okay.
We often think quality is everything.
Yeah.
But research by Dean Simonton suggests that highly creative people don't necessarily have better initial ideas. They just have more of them.
Oh, wait. So you're saying it's kind of like a numbers game.
Kinda, yeah.
More darts you throw, the better your chances of hitting a bullseye.
Exactly, yeah. Think of Picasso.
Okay.
He created thousands of pieces.
Yeah.
And we only remember a handful, as masterpieces.
Yeah.
But those masterpieces wouldn't exist without that vast body of work.
Right. Right.
And even Beethoven, who we consider a genius.
Oh, yeah.
He often misjudged which of his own compositions would actually become hits.
Oh, wow. That's a huge relief. Suddenly, all those half-baked ideas I have, scribbled down on notepads, don't seem so useless.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's permission to just brainstorm.
Yeah. It's permission to brainstorm without judgment. Just get it out there, knowing that the gems will emerge from the pile eventually.
Okay, so quantity over quality. Got it.
Yeah.
But speaking of habits,
Mm-hmm.
there's one that Grant reframes in a way I never really expected, and it's something I think we're all kind of familiar with, procrastination.
Ah, yes. Procrastination. The supposed enemy of productivity.
Right.
But Grant, he presents a very different perspective.
Okay.
Suggesting that procrastination, when used strategically, can actually fuel creativity.
Strategic procrastination.
Yes.
Okay, that sounds way more appealing than the usual, guilt trip.
You're right.
How does that even work?
Well, one of the most compelling examples he uses is Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech.
Okay.
A significant portion of that really powerful speech was actually improvised, thanks to some last-minute writing.
No way. Procrastination played a role in one of the most iconic speeches in history.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. I'm starting to see the potential here.
Right.
So how does this work? What's the science behind it?
Well, there's a psychological phenomenon behind this called the Zeigarnik effect.
Okay.
And it basically says that unfinished tasks tend to stay with us,
Okay.
Creating this low-level mental hum that can actually lead to unexpected insights.
Oh, so our brains keep working on a problem even when we're not actively, focused on it.
Precisely, yeah.
Mhm.
It's like letting an idea simmer on the back burner.
Okay.
Grant even brings up Leonardo da Vinci, who took 16 years to complete the Mona Lisa.
Wow.
Whether that was intentional procrastination or not, the point is that that extended time frame allowed for a lot of experimentation, refinement, and maybe even those aha moments that come from stepping away.
Man, I'm already feeling less guilty about that project I've been putting off. Maybe it's not laziness. Maybe it's strategic incubation. Okay, but how can we actually harness this Zeigarnik effect, you know?
Yeah, well, think about intentionally stepping away from a task when you hit a wall.
Okay.
Shift your focus to something else, let your mind wander a bit, and then you'll see what emerges when you actually return to it.
Okay.
It's about trusting that your subconscious is actually working behind the scenes, even when you're not consciously problem solving.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a game changer. Suddenly, procrastination seems less like a vice and more like a secret weapon. But let's face it, even with, brilliant ideas born from strategic procrastination, we eventually have to share them with the world. And that brings us to the dreaded pitch.
That's right. Pitching is where a lot of great ideas, they just kind of stumble.
Yeah.
And it's natural to, fear rejection,
Oh, totally.
especially when you're putting something truly original out there.
Yeah, that what if they hate it
Yeah.
feeling. It can be
Oh,
paralyzing. Grant has some pretty counterintuitive advice here, though. He suggests highlighting your idea's weaknesses up front,
yeah,
which seems kind of crazy.
it does. It does.
But when you think about it, like when you acknowledge the flaws, it shows that you've really thought things through.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You're not just blindly attached to this perfect picture. It kind of builds trust.
Yeah, it shows you're being realistic.
Yeah.
It shows you've thought about the potential problems.
So it's about demonstrating critical thinking
Yeah.
and not just selling. Do you have an example of this in action?
Yeah, Grant talks about the founders of Babbel, which is that online parenting platform.
Yeah.
And when they were pitching to investors, they actually led with their website's flaws.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They talked about low user engagement, irrelevant gossip, outdated tech, all that stuff.
Whoa. That's bold. And what was the reaction?
The investors were impressed.
Really?
Yeah, that honesty made them seem more trustworthy. And it actually led to them securing millions in funding.
Oh, wow.
And eventually, Babbel was acquired by Disney.
So vulnerability can actually be a strength when pitching,
Mm-hmm.
even when it feels risky.
Yeah, yeah,
Powerful takeaway.
yeah.
But even if you nail the pitch, even if you get people to buy in, to give you money, whatever that looks like, there's still the challenge of getting everyone on board with something truly new.
Mm-hmm.
Because, people are creatures of habit.
They are, yes.
So how do you get past that?
Yeah, and Grant actually points out our natural resistance to, unfamiliar ideas.
Right.
We like what we know, even if it's not, the best.
Totally.
It's like, if you see a photo of yourself and you think, do I really look like that?
Yeah.
We prefer that familiar image, even if it's not entirely accurate.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with ideas.
It's like trying to convince my family to try a new restaurant.
Yeah.
Instead of the same old place we always go to. It never works. So how do you break through that resistance with a truly original idea?
Well, your family. The restaurant thing, actually, you're not too far off.
Okay.
Because Grant talks about the mere exposure effect,
Okay.
which basically says that the more people encounter an idea, the less foreign it becomes.
Okay.
So repetition does help.
Okay.
But there's another strategy that's actually key here.
Okay, what is it?
It's called framing.
Framing. Okay, so finding the right Instagram filter for my idea.
Not quite, though presentation is, it's important.
Okay.
Framing is really about connecting your new idea to something familiar, something that people already accept.
Okay.
It's like building a bridge from the known to the unknown.
Okay, give me an example.
All right, remember The Lion King?
Yes.
When that movie was first pitched, Disney executives, they weren't thrilled.
Sure.
They thought the story was, too dark, for kids.
Yeah.
But then somebody reframed it. They compared it to Shakespeare.
Wait, The Lion King and Shakespeare. How does that even work?
Well, they highlighted the similarities to plays like Hamlet
Okay.
and King Lear, and suddenly the idea wasn't so radical. It was connected to these classics, this respected body of work.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So they transform the perception of the whole thing by just finding that familiar reference point.
Yeah, it's about packaging your ideas strategically, even if they are pushing boundaries.
That's so smart. But let's say you've found your people,
Mm-hmm.
the ones who are open to new ideas. There might still be disagreement, even conflict. So how do you navigate that?
Well, Grant dives into the value of disagreement here.
Okay.
He actually challenges this idea that, harmony is always good.
Okay, yeah.
He cites research by Charlene Nemeth showing that minority opinions, even if they are quote-unquote wrong, they actually make groups think harder
Okay.
and make better decisions.
So it's like that saying iron sharpens iron.
Exactly, yeah.
You need that friction.
Yeah.
to really, like, refine the blade.
Right. It's the opposite of what's called groupthink,
Oh, yeah.
where everybody just kind of agrees just to keep the peace,
Right?
even if it means, like, settling for a subpar solution.
Yeah.
Grant gives a great example from the Navy's Rapid Innovation Cell.
Okay.
And the leader of that team specifically chose junior officers who were known for challenging authority.
Oh, so he deliberately brought in people who would, like, stir the pot.
He did, and it worked.
Wow.
Yeah, that team came up with all sorts of really creative solutions because they weren't afraid to push back on each other's ideas. Disagreement, in that environment was actually seen as a sign of respect. It was a driver of innovation.
I like that. But it's not always easy to find that kind of environment, is it?
No.
Especially, like, when dealing with what Grant calls horizontal hostility,
Yeah.
which, okay, that sounds intense.
It is.
What does that even mean?
Well, it's the idea that that people within the same group, they can actually be the harshest critics.
Oh, interesting. Like crabs in a bucket, pulling each other back down.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of helping each other climb out.
Okay.
They think about colleagues subtly sabotaging each other's projects.
Right.
Or even friends just dismissing each other's, like, creative endeavors. It's a real challenge for originals.
Ouch, yeah.
Yeah.
I've definitely experienced that. It's like people are just threatened by anything that, like, challenges the status quo, even from people within their own, like, ranks or groups.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that when you're trying to, like, champion something truly new? Do you just have to, like, fight harder?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be so frustrating when you're, like, really excited about something and the people you think are going to be your biggest cheerleaders are the ones that are kind of like, mm.
It is, yeah. And it's tough. But, Grant actually offers a strategy for this, for dealing with this.
Right.
He calls it the Trojan horse.
Oh, okay, I like that.
So it's about, like, making your radical ideas more palatable.
By kind of disguising them a little bit,
Okay.
Connecting them to things that people already value, like shared values and existing goals.
Yeah.
Instead of demanding, like, total buy-in right from the start.
Oh, I like that. So kind of like sneaking your brilliance in under the radar.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example.
All right, well, think about Meredith Perry,
Okay.
the inventor of wireless power technology.
Oh, yeah.
So when she first pitched her idea, people they were skeptical.
Understandable.
Yeah, wireless charging, come on. Like, they thought it was impossible.
Right.
So she got strategic. Instead of pitching, like, the entire revolutionary concept of wireless power, she focused on just one component,
Okay.
the transducer.
Ah. So she kind of broke down a big, intimidating idea into, like, a smaller, more digestible piece.
Exactly. And by focusing on the transducer, she was able to secure support and funding.
Oh, wow.
Even from people who weren't fully sold on, the whole wireless power thing.
Oh, that's a great example of, like, framing, right?
Yeah, it is.
Finding a way to make something appealing even if people initially might have resisted it.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this is giving me so much to think about.
Yeah.
It's like a whole new playbook for, like, innovators and people who want to make a difference, right?
It is, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like you have to be strategic, you have to be persuasive, maybe even a little bit sneaky sometimes to get those game-changing ideas off the ground.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, this has been, this deep dive into originals has been mind-blowing. We've covered so much.
Yeah.
Embracing quantity over quality, using procrastination strategically, pitching with vulnerability, framing our ideas effectively, even, like, navigating disagreement and horizontal hostility.
That's right.
I don't know, there's a lot of really empowering stuff in here.
Yeah, and I think what I find so inspiring about Grant's work is that it shows us how, seemingly small choices can actually have a really big impact on our ability to, be original. It's like you were saying, choosing a non-default web browser.
Yeah.
Or just reframing procrastination as a creative tool. Like, these little things can add up.
Yeah, it's about shifting our mindset and adopting those habits that encourage us to, like, think differently, challenge the status quo, and, just bring our unique perspectives to the table.
Exactly.
I love that it's never too late to start.
It's never too late. You're absolutely right. It doesn't matter your age, your experience, even, like, I hate saying the word talent.
Yeah.
It's really about, cultivating that willingness to experiment, to embrace failure as, an opportunity to learn and just keep pushing those boundaries.
Absolutely. Well, as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into Adam Grant's originals, I'm curious, like, What's resonating with you? What's one small thing you can do this week to, like, tap into your own originality?
Maybe it's, I don't know, challenging a default assumption at work. Maybe it's voicing a dissenting opinion in a meeting. Or even, you know what, maybe it's just giving yourself permission to strategically procrastinate on that project you've been putting off.
I like that.
The thing to remember is that even the most groundbreaking ideas, they often start as like a whisper,
Yeah.
right? It's up to us to amplify those whispers, nurture them, and have the courage to actually bring them to life.
It's true. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, your original contribution is the one that changes everything.